I ended up dating this guy for a time period. We talked all the time, like literally, it was the craziest thing. And I was like, see, I knew it. I was like, I knew it. This is my person. That's why this didn't work out because this is my person. Like he's just it. He's connected on this total level. And after a while, because at first I didn't care because I wasn't trying to do anything. I started realizing that I could only call certain times, and I did not really technically see him all the time on the weekend. And holidays were coming up, and we really didn't spend holidays together. And I'm like, wait a minute, something's really weird. But it was like, oh, but we FaceTime all the time, and we do all these different things, and he liked me so much. And then I Googled him. Well, I didn't really Google him. I did something. I searched for him, and he was married.
Our stories are what make us unique, but they're also what connect us as human beings. It's time to stop talking and start listening. This is You Talk, I'll Listen with Shannon Chapman. On this episode, we're going to be talking to somebody who's very special to me. Her name is Jennifer Clark, and she has been my bestie for about 18 years now, which is so hard to believe. But she's been part of my story, and I wanted to talk to her about a part of her story that 40 to 50% of married couples in the U.S. experience, and that's divorce. I don't think that you've ever really spoken about this, even to me, so I am interested in hearing what you have to say about it.
Hello, Shan, my bestie for life. I am excited about doing this. I haven't. I've shared bits and pieces of this with people that are close to me, because it's just a good thing to share. But I'm hoping in doing this of me healing and becoming more self-aware that I can actually help other people who may be dealing with different issues or different emotions and thought process that maybe they don't think is normal. Maybe I can normalize it and help them get through it the way that I'm still getting through it. So hopefully this is good for the both of us, and I'm excited to be your first guest.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. So, Jen, tell me a little bit about what your hopes and dreams were when you first got into your marriage.
I guess at that point we had been through so much. Like we went through so many different things, and not necessarily with us. I mean, we barely argued. Like we really did barely argue. We had, issues. Of course, but as far as like just full on fights and arguments, we didn't really have them. So, unfortunately, like most people do, there's an expectation of when you get married, things will change, or the things that you have an issue with will be different because now I'm a wife and he's a husband. And so that's how we're going to act accordingly. And you don't realize that that's not really how it goes. And I think that's what the problem is the expectations of things being, a marriage. Like, oh, we're going to get through everything. We're so in love that there's nothing that can break us down. We're going to talk it all the way out and we're going to be perfect. And that was my expectation. It was that no matter what, we were gonna be fine, and things were gonna be different, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I can definitely identify with that. I think
Yeah,
a lot of people when they get married, they have those misconceptions about it. Like, think you're
right.
always supposed to have butterflies, that you're always gonna be in love, and like love can conquer anything.
Yeah,
But
and
I
it's not.
think, I've learned
Yeah,
different. Not that I don't love my husband. I love him
of
very
course.
much.
And that's the thing. It's not even about that. And I think that's what gets misconstrued about it is people assume because now everybody's situation is different. Like I said, my situation is kind of a unique situation because of who we both are as people. But that misconception of things happening in your marriage because you don't love each other really isn't true. I
Right.
mean, and I've learned that, and I think I had that expectation before, like, oh, but I can make somebody love me because I'm gonna do X, Y, Z, and I'm gonna do these things and these things, but we're still two separate people coming together, so it doesn't really work like that. Like it
Right.
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't fix everything.
USA Today says that some common reasons for divorce are lack of commitment, infidelity, arguing, growing apart, and money. Why do you think so many marriages fail, and like where did yours fall short?
Um, I, okay, I would say I feel like again mine was the high expectations of someone that didn't exist. And I think it went both ways. I think we both had expectations of what we thought the person was gonna be instead of who that person actually was. Now for me mainly it was infidelity on my side of it because that caused me to question a lot of things that I shouldn't have had to question and a lot of things that I shouldn't have to deal with. And I think sometimes infidelity causes a way deeper issues than sex. And I think sometimes people think, oh, well, it's sex with this person, or y'all must not been having enough sex, or it's not even really that. It's a whole deeper meaning to it because most of the time it's them emotionally checking out, and then if they're checking out from you, now you're not getting fulfilled, and then you checked out, and then it's kind of like y'all are fighting about something and you have an outside factor. And so between I mean, and everything else just kind of falls into place. I mean, you don't have I mean, I would assume like a husband that's head of household, I still believe that, and when money is a factor, it kind of falls on them. Like it's both of y'all, but it really falls on them. And as a man, if you can't reach all those different things that falls on the type of mentality you have in your marriage. And so if you feel inadequate or if your wife is making you feel inadequate, then maybe you're going to someone who you don't really have those expectations with. And so I think they all kind of fall into each other. I know, like I said, that for me personally, it was like the infidelity, there was to me there was no compromise. There was no like I don't want to say it's no compromise, but it was to me it wasn't enough. Like I expected it to be like we fight for this to the death. Like if it's gonna end, we know we gave it 1,000,000%. And so I felt like I was the only one that gave the 1,000,000%. And so I think and I think that's what happened. And sometimes, like, especially, I know for me, like, when you've done everything, you don't really want to do anything. And that's kind of what happens. You kind of fall back so far that you check out of it and hope that the other person picks up their slack, and they don't. So I think all those things correlate into just being married and how much you want to fight for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like a lot of those things can lead into each other. And
Yeah,
then, I mean, haven't experienced divorce, but just my thoughts, like all of those things just kind of lead to the downfall of
right.
everything.
Yeah,
Um
I mean, I even like, and people, and I joke around with people. Well, not even really jokingly. I always say people don't leave because somebody cheated, and it's true. Like majority of the people, even if they say, "Oh, this person cheated on me," that's usually not why they actually filled out paperwork and divorce, unless it was something so extreme where like you walked in on it, they got somebody pregnant, or they. I don't know, something extreme. Most of the time, it's not that. It's a slew of things that happen that is based on that from each party. Like you never know. Like I said, all guys are. I mean, I won't say all guys, but all people. I mean, everybody's not cheating just to be cheating. Some people, it is an emotional thing. It's a mental thing. It's a million different and they're unhappy. Like somebody's unhappy and it's causing the other person to be unhappy. And like I said, if you don't want to fight for it, all those things come into play regardless of how much love you have in it.
And that definitely goes back to expectations, because if your expectation is that, we're going to fight for it through thick and thin, and, no matter what happens, like, we're going to work on it and we're going to make it better, but then the other person doesn't want to do that, then, I mean, how do you make it work?
And that's the thing, like, somebody has to fight. I mean, you both have to fight. And I feel like, even to this day, I feel like there was definitely still fight left. I don't think there was any chance that it was something where it was just like, I hate you, you hate me, this is just what it is. It was never like that. And I think it's easier to give up when you don't have to deal with problems, because if you get out of whatever you're in and are able to reconnect with someone else or do something with someone else, then you don't really care about what you had. It's not really necessary. But, for the person that is really in it, they're the one that fight for it. It's only so much you can fight for. And that's just what it comes. And like I said, my situation is probably totally different than all the other people that that go through divorce. I don't know, but I know in my situation, I do feel like there was definitely fight available. So, but I mean, you can't make people happy like that, and that's the reality of it. And I think that's also part of it. People think getting married makes you happier or having a partner makes you happier, and it doesn't.
Right. But the only person that can make you happy is you. It's not that other person.
Right. But the other person can most definitely make you unhappy. So they can definitely do things to make you unhappy, but you can do things to make them unhappy, and that's the reality of it. Like, we're not, it's in going back to, knowing that you're ready to get married. I mean, I could have called this years ago. Like, I could have seen this end result, even though, like I said, in my perspective, I thought it was going to be a fight to the death. I mean, if I look back, I could have called this years and years before this, and it had nothing to do with how much we loved each other or how much we cared about each other, just how it flowed. Like, I think, and this is also part of it, sometimes you lose yourself so much trying to make it happen and create it and become a wife and get in it that you lose yourself and you don't even know who you are. You become all of this because your main objective is just trying to keep your marriage, and you get so lost in it and wrapped up in it that it's not even you anymore. Like, you're not even you. Like, you don't even know who you are. And because we dated so young, we dated out of college, so it's like we grew up together. And we talked about that. Like, we literally grew up together. We came out of college, like my last couple years in Georgia Southern, into all our adult life. We spent it creating each other. And so, but I don't think we ever were able to fully be individuals. And I think I don't think we did enough to encourage each other to be separate. I think we focused so much on what we did together, and it almost became like selfish, because I'm like, no, you need to be this, and you need to be that, and you need to be this, and then I feel as though he felt like, I can't be this, I don't want to be this, I don't want to be that, and it was just a conflict. That's why I said it really has nothing to do with love or anything. It's just, that's just how it goes.
So then, like, what is that breaking point? If you're fighting and like you're trying to be committed to each other and fight for your marriage, what is that breaking point?
We honestly checked out long before we got separated, because I remember thinking, I kept thinking, like, maybe I didn't want to buy things long term. Like, I didn't want to get tickets for stuff. I didn't want to think about different holidays, because I kept thinking we're probably going to be together anyway. And that's literally how I was thinking. And within a year before we even separated.
To hear the rest of this conversation and the mic drop moment, go to your favorite podcasting app and follow the You Talk, I'll Listen podcast. Or check the details below for a link to the hosting site. Grace and blessings.